Michelle says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them.
Well, we all remember that moment now. That was former Attorney General Eric Holder rejecting the notion that Democrats should hold themselves to a standard of civility. Meantime, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell hitting back, calling out politicians who engage in divisive rhetoric.
Remember, these comments come less than a year and a half after Republican members of the House and Senate were literally shot at by a politically crazed gunman. There have been graphic death threats. Senators and staff have needed extraordinary police protection. And the Democrats calling for more incivility and more rage.
Joining us now is Charlie Hurt, opinion editor at the Washington Times and a Fox News contributor. Charlie, great to have you on a Friday morning. If you could just sort of look back at this big conversation that has taken place over civility this week and tell us your thoughts.
Well, it really is sort of amazing, especially when you look back at the last couple of weeks with the sordid, really disgusting scenes that we saw in the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation fight on Capitol Hill. I've never seen things get so ugly, and the politics of personal destruction become so acute, where the allegations that got thrown out didn't need to be substantiated or anything like that. It really was. We really have sort of hit a new level. I was glad to see that that Michelle Obama came back out to preach the importance of being hopeful and using different rhetoric. But I have to say that it kind of reminded me of her husband's '08 campaign, which was all full of hope. But what was the first thing that he did when he became president? He put Eric Holder as Attorney General, and from there on out, it was a very, very different type of politics we got from the Obamas.
Well, here is Michelle Obama, now that you brought it up, responding to Eric Holder's comment. Listen.
Fear is not it's not a proper motivator. Hope wins out. And if you think about how you want your kids to be raised, how you want them to think about life and their opportunities. Do you want them afraid of their neighbors? Do you want them angry? Do you want them vengeful? If we think of the values that we try to promote to our children.
And since then, Eric Holder has responded to all the outrage over his comments, Charlie. He tweeted out, "Okay, stop the fake outrage. I'm obviously not advocating violence. In fact, when I was AG, violent crime in the U.S. was historically low. I'm saying Republicans are undermining our democracy, and Democrats need to be tough, proud, and stand up for the values we believe in." The end.
Obviously, because who would imagine that kicking someone is a violent act? It's insane. Like I said, I always go back to that 2008 campaign that was the most hopeful, positive campaign that I think I've ever seen. And then to look at the 8 years, the way that the Obamas governed, and in particular the way that Eric Holder weaponized the Department of Justice to divide people. It was an incredibly divisive campaign. They did use fear. That's kind of how they kept voters, in check. It was a really. It was such a missed opportunity that first Obama campaign.
And I go back to Leader McConnell's comments, and he's saying that the fight over Kavanaugh's confirmation came at a perfect time for Republicans as far as generating enthusiasm to get out and vote in the midterm elections. He says, though, here's his warning: lose the Senate, and the project of confirming judges is over for the last 2 years of President Trump. That, I think, is a scary prospect to the people who like what we've been doing on the Judge Project, and I hope will help us hold on to our majority. I wanted to get your final thoughts on that.
There is no motivator among Republican voters like the courts, and I think that Mitch McConnell and Republicans everywhere ought to be hitting that message every single day. It was a primary reason why President Trump won the White House in 2016, and as we have seen with the enthusiasm over the last couple of weeks from Republican voters, it is probably the biggest thing that can get Republicans to turn out between now and the election day.
Charlie Hurt, great to have you on a Friday morning. Have a great weekend.
Andrew.
Thank you.
You too.